Hey Amarillo, I'm Jason Boyette, and you're listening to Hey Amarillo, the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. As part of this podcast partnership with Brick and Elm magazine, I want to give a podcast shout out to Marmee's Porch, Broom Optical, and The Barfield. You can read the January-February issue of Brick and Elm at brickandelm.com or check out our new digital magazine e-reader, which is optimized for mobile. It's a really sleek interface. I love it. You can also find a link to that at brickandelm.com. Today's guest is Marcee Mangiameli. Marcee is one of the owners of a new local business called Lesson Lounge, along with her husband, Taylor. And Lesson Lounge is a place where you can go to get music lessons. Now, when I say it's new, it is a new business. It only opened in January, a few weeks ago. But sometimes those early, just getting started stories tell us a lot about the business environment here and what it takes to get started. The instructors at Lesson Lounge are working Amarillo musicians, and I'm already hearing from friends about what a great concept it is. It's something like a music education co-working space with multiple music teachers working with students on a lot of different instruments. So there's guitar, piano, drums, and more. And so in this conversation, Marcee shares with me how she and Taylor came up with the idea, why they returned to the Panhandle after living in other big cities, and why the Lesson Lounge concept may already be heading elsewhere in Texas. Here's Marcee Mangiameli. Marcee Mangiameli, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you. I want to start with you the same way I start with all my guests, and that's just to ask you why you're here in Amarillo. Tell me the story of where you grew up and how you ended up here.
So I actually grew up in Canadian.
Okay.
So small town. I didn't grow up in Amarillo. While we did come to Amarillo pretty much every weekend. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Canadian, small town.
Amarillo was the big town for shopping and movies and
groceries, all the things. There's nothing hardly to do in Canadian. So you come to Amarillo to do all of that stuff. Graduated from Canadian, came to WT, went to school there for about a year and a half and decided I wanted to move to Austin.
Okay.
Moved to Austin for a few months. Had a little too much fun in Austin.
Okay. Were you going to school in Austin?
I was.
Okay.
I was going to nursing school in Austin. Quickly realized I could not afford to live down there. Yeah. Got really expensive really quickly. So I moved back here, moved to Canyon for a couple of months, moved to Amarillo, started working at Red Lobster. Okay. So I was a Red Lobster for a while. Decided that I wanted to leave again. So I left and I went to Colorado for a few years. And that was just the most beautiful, awesome experience I could have ever imagined.
Where in Colorado?
Colorado Springs.
Okay.
Yeah. It was absolutely amazing. But kind of like Austin, just got expensive. We were living in a really, really small, horrible house for a very large amount downtown. And just decided, it's time to go back home. It's a lot more affordable in Amarillo.
That is true.
And then anywhere,
you don't realize that until you leave and go someplace else.
No, it's true. And so come back here, and I started actually working. I worked for Starbucks inside of Target.
Okay.
Here, yeah. So I did that for a while. I found out I was pregnant with my oldest, and decided to move back to Canadian so we could have a little bit more support. My whole family's there, so moved back to Canadian. Went to school, finished my degree with WT online. Got my degree in criminal justice, actually. And then moved back to Amarillo. I started dating my husband, Taylor. We met on Tinder during COVID.
Okay.
He lived here, so I moved back here with my kiddo. Got engaged shortly after that, and now I've been here since then.
So the tried and true path through nursing school to a criminal justice degree. To what you're doing now, right?
Well, so I actually started in criminal justice.
Okay, did you really?
So I kind of jumped all over the place. I originally actually started with special education.
Okay.
I did special education for one semester, and I got a hold of teachers. I was doing interviews and all of that kind of stuff. Realized the state mandated tests for those with special needs is the same as those not with special needs.
Yes.
So I was just I can't get behind that. I can't do that. So I swapped to criminal justice. Decided when I moved to Austin I was going to do nursing, and did the nursing bit for a little bit. whenever I found out I was pregnant, I was like, well, I'm just going to get my degree, just have a degree so that, I was single at the time. I'm going to have a good, solid job with good benefits. And so I got my degree in criminal justice. Haven't done anything with it.
Tell me about dating during the pandemic. Like, what was that?
We didn't see each other. It was just over the phone.
It was just, talking to each other, not even in person then.
No, not at all. The shutdown was the end of March, right? So we actually ended up meeting the end of June. So we talked throughout that whole time, but we never met each other. I have asthma. So whenever they were talking about immunocompromised, so I've got asthma, I'm immunocompromised, and I was terrified to leave my house, especially with my baby at home. So I just told him, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not coming to meet you. I'm not coming to your house. Like, we're not doing those things. I was terrified. So we didn't end up meeting till the end of June.
Okay. The other question I have before we start talking about what you do now is, you lived in different places. You lived in Austin, you lived in Colorado, ended up coming back here. And sometimes it takes that leaving your hometown or the region, the Texas Panhandle, before you really appreciate like maybe what you had here.
Absolutely.
And I wonder what you could, if you could talk about like what that was like with you, not even cost of living. I mean, and that's a big part of it, but like, were there other things that you thought, oh man, I miss this aspect of Canadian. I miss this aspect of Amarillo.
Family, big time family. My whole family's in the Panhandle. So that was really hard. The cost of living, was definitely a big one. The sense of community, it's different in those bigger cities.
Right.
I consider Amarillo, one of the small cities, if you will.
But it's not Canadian small.
No.
So.
No, not at all. So just the sense of, it's just a homey feel, just the welcoming factor to it. And maybe it is just because I was from here and it's just, something I'm used to. But, it's such a different change of pace whenever you are in Austin or you are in, honestly, just even a different state. It's different, being in Texas your whole life, it's Texas pride all the way through, and you move to a different state and there really isn't that kind of like pride for your state there.
Okay.
And I'm not saying Colorado people don't have pride for their state.
Right.
Obviously they do. Whenever you go there, they'll harp on people from Texas or New Mexico being there and being tourists and all of those things. But really, the sense of pride that we have here for our community in general is just, you can't find it anywhere else, I don't think.
I always thought it was weird that you can go to a hotel in Texas and make Texas-shaped waffles.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a thing in other states.
No.
Like, nobody's making an Idaho-shaped waffle.
Right. Or Kansas, just a square waffle.
Colorado's just a square.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've ended up back here. You said, you're not working in criminal justice. Nope. So tell me what you're doing now.
So 6 years I've been a stay-at-home mom. I did the network marketing gig, and I'm still doing that. It's allowed me to stay home with my kids, and it's been just the biggest blessing. The economy kind of took a tumble, as we all know.
Yeah.
So it's like, what can I do to add on to this? What other streams of income can I do here? So I thought I'll just start teaching people piano.
Okay.
And then I kind of got in my head about people coming into my home. I was like, I don't really want a bunch of strangers coming into my home whenever I've got my kids here. And, if Taylor, my husband's gone, like, I don't want people coming into my home and I'm home by myself,
Sure.
So Taylor was like, well, let's just get a place and you can start teaching piano out of that place. We found a really awesome place off Line Avenue, and he kind of piggybacked off of that idea and was like, well, let's get other musicians in here. I know a handful of musicians that, need a place to teach. And so we got a place that's got multiple rooms. And so now we offer other musicians to come in and teach. I teach piano. I've also started doing wedding ceremonies. That's something new that I've started.
Playing the piano at wedding ceremonies.
Yes. And my first one is April 26th.
Okay, so it's new.
Yeah, it's brand new.
All right.
So I'm so excited about that. It's going to be fun.
So had you always played piano? Like, has that been something you've always done?
Yeah, so I actually picked up the piano when I was about 4.
Okay.
I really started taking lessons when I was 5. My older sister was taking lessons, and so I just kind of played beside her.
Okay.
Started taking lessons. It's been a pretty big part of my life. I've never played like professionally like that, but it's definitely been something that it's been my biggest hobby, for sure.
And so you've turned that hobby into a location for lessons in a variety of different instruments, which is a little bit of a new kind of thing in Amarillo. Like when I took piano when I was a kid, it was at somebody's house. I went to somebody's house, sat next to her on the piano bench, and we played together. It wasn't at like a studio.
Right.
I took guitar lessons, and it was a very similar kind of thing. So I wonder, like, if you felt, okay, this kind of thing really hasn't happened in this formal way at a formal place like what you're doing.
No, absolutely. And that was kind of like the big push for us, is it's just like, this is something that could really explode. I mean, because there is so much in the world has changed since whenever we were kids. You know, it's hard going to someone's home and feeling comfortable now. So why not make it a little bit more professional and have an actual spot for that, you know?
You said you have multiple rooms. Like, what are some of the instruments?
So we've got guitar, drum, vocal. We've got Jody Miller. He is with Chad and the Good Fortune. He's the drummer. He's our drum instructor. We've got Jonathan Guidi. He's with Touching Voodoo here in town. He does guitar. My husband, Taylor, he plays the bass for Chad Miller and the Good Fortune as well. He does bass guitar and teaches guitar as well. And then I do piano.
Tell me how, as I understand, this is a relatively new business. Like, you've only been open a couple months at this point?
January 6th was our first day.
All right.
Yeah.
So a little more than a month.
Yeah.
When you open a business like this, and I always love these kinds of stories where somebody just decides we're going to do something brand new that doesn't really exist. Like, how did you go and find kids who wanted to come take lessons, or adults who wanted to come take lessons?
Facebook.
Okay.
Just marketing on Facebook. There's a big, it's called the Mama Tribe on Facebook. I'm a part of that.
So it's like a Facebook group?
It's a Facebook group for moms here in the Texas Panhandle. Super, super good group. So I advertised one day in there. I had a friend that shared in a Bushland group for me. So I've got some Bushland kids. Taylor's got some Bushland kids as well. And just utilizing Facebook is how we've done it. And it's been super successful.
In living in Austin or Colorado Springs, did you see similar kinds of businesses there?
No.
Was anybody doing a standalone studio where you could just learn any variety of instruments? I'm not going to say that no one did that, but it wasn't something I was aware of by any means. But saying that, whenever I was in Austin and Colorado, music really wasn't the forefront. My whole life, I've never really thought music was going to be where I ended up. It's always just been a hobby for me. And so landing where I've landed is honestly just interesting and awesome and exciting. So it's not to say that there probably weren't standalone studios. It just wasn't something that I was aware of. Okay. I know that, like, I'm trying to think of other places that might have offered lessons, like Guitar Center. Is there guitar lessons there?
Guitar Center does guitar lessons. We've had a couple of transfers come from Guitar Center.
There used to be a place called Randy's in Amarillo that offered lessons. And I remember that was a big deal, but like, it's not around anymore.
Right. So I think Tarpley's might do lessons also, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
I'm not 100%.
You quoted yourself. So it's
okay,
in
you're
the
right.
podcast. Is there something that you and the different instructors offer that maybe sets you apart from, let's say, Guitar Center or Tarpley's? Something that maybe is also selling instruments and selling music. It's kind of a corollary to what they do. It's the main thing of what you guys do.
I would say just our availability of time.
Okay.
I think there's music instructors that just have like your certain time. They just have a certain limit of students that they want. I mean, us, whatever time you can make it, like, we'll be there. It's a not 24 hours type of thing, but almost. If we can't get you in the afternoon, we'd love to get you in whenever is available for you. So really just tailoring around each individual person rather than just being the strict, no, you have to be here from this time or this time. It's just a more laid back. And I think that's something that's needs to be brought into the music community is it's been so strict. It's felt so strict. You think about music lessons, music teachers even, and it's just so strict and aggressive almost. And it's just like, it shouldn't be that way. Music should be fun and relaxed. And if you're here, great. If you're not here, that's okay, type thing. So just a more relaxed, comfortable, available schedule.
Who are your students? Are they I mean, you mentioned the moms group, so I imagine most of them are kids. Like, are you teaching adults?
I have 2 adults.
Okay.
I think our other instructors have a couple of adults, but it is primarily kids.
Okay. Are these kids who are, when I was taking piano lessons, I was also playing violin, at school in the school orchestra. Like, is it that sort of thing where they are doing a multiple pursuit of instruments, or are they just doing like piano or bass or drums?
There are some that want to do multitude, but their parents have said, we're just going to stick with one right now and then move on to the others. So we don't have any that have committed to more than one right now, but I foresee that probably happening in the near future.
I also like that your instructors are performers in this area.
Yeah.
Is that something that maybe is attractive to the families? Where they can say, well, our bass player, plays every weekend at this place. You can go watch him play, or our drummer. Is that something that you talk about?
It's really not. It's not something that has been brought up. I'm sure, which I haven't sat in. I can't say that. I haven't sat in on the performers' practices, so I don't know if maybe that is something that they talk about.
I mean, you don't want to tell a 10-year-old, come see us at the Golden Light
right.
on Friday night. But
right.
it is the kind of thing where you can see your instructor actually playing in a band in a real life scenario.
Yeah, and I think as a kid, how cool is that? To say that, our kids, they think that dad's a rock star. So for, kids coming in there and taking their lessons, they're taking them from rock stars. So I think it's a cool thing to have up there. It's a really awesome little energy we've got.
Since you guys are immersed in it from the teaching perspective, but also from the work side, what have you learned about the live music scene here in Amarillo? Coming back here from Austin, living in places like Colorado Springs, where there's a pretty vibrant scene. Like, did you come here and have you seen it grow over the past few years?
It has grown. I think it needs to grow more.
Okay.
I think that when I first moved to Amarillo, being 18 years old, we hardly had any live music, like anywhere. Golden Light, Hoots, your Friday, Saturday night type things.
What year was that when you first moved here?
2012.
Okay.
And since then, it has substantially grown. You've got Smokey Joe's, who has the live music every day. I think that's so cool. If we had more of that, I think it would be really beneficial to those of us in Amarillo that, whenever we go out, that's what we want to see. We want to go out and we want to see live music. And sometimes it's hard to find that. We've got the Amarillo live music scene group on Facebook that's stays on top of where all of the live music is and all of that. And I think that's super cool, but I think it could be more.
Okay.
For sure. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
It could be more.
Well, you're helping develop the next generation of band members, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell me about the wedding part. Because I grew up in a time when you got married, everything was, live people playing piano or the organ at a church, Weddings are different now. They don't often take place in a church. Sometimes they're in, a big metal barn or something like that.
Yeah.
So is, being someone who plays the piano in that sort of scenario, is that rare these days? Like, is that less of a thing now?
I want to say so. I'm just dipping my toes into it, so it's hard for me to have bold opinions on it. But from the people that I've talked to that are in the wedding industry, they're like, this is something that you could really grow on because this is something that people need. You don't have a lot of people that are live performers singular for weddings, so I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Yeah.
Do you have a sense? I'm just trying to think of wedding venues that actually had a piano or something in it, which is probably not very many. Like, are you playing a piano or are you playing a keyboard? Like, what's the scenario?
This first one is at the top of Amarillo.
Oh, the Amarillo Club.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Amarillo Club. Yeah.
So they've got a big grand piano.
Yeah. So I'll get to play on that beautiful thing. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But as far as other venues, I do have a keyboard. I'll travel with my keyboard and all of that kind of stuff.
Amarillo is a city with a size that is bigger than someplace like Canadian, not as big as Austin. And so it's sort of the perfect size if you want to try something new. If you want to be the first person to do something, you can be the first person, but there's enough of a community to support it, whereas it might not have worked in Canadian.
Right.
Do you feel that that's true, like with opening your music business and the lessons and all that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has been such a blessing. The support that we've received from the community just within a couple of months of just advertising has been insane. You know, we were expecting for it to pick up just because we've had people inquire about lessons from us already. So we were expecting it to pick up, but just the support of new things whenever they do come to Amarillo is so cool and humbling, honestly. With saying that, I think that you can also see sometimes there's a pushback from the community. You know, I'm sure you've seen that. If it's not what the community supports. So it's that line of either being really in or really not in. And so it's been so humbling and so awesome to be a part of the community that they're like, yes, this is great. Like, keep going. And so I definitely feel like Amarillo has been the perfect spot for us to start this. And, you know, we are hoping with this to expand to Lubbock, Fort Worth, and so on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, you're only a few weeks into it. Yep. Like, a year from now, 5 years from now, like, what are your goals? What do you hope to see
We're
happen?
hoping to be in Lubbock by the end of this year. Okay. We've got a few musicians down there that have kind of reached out to us, and they're interested in doing Lesson Lounge too. So we're hoping by the end of this year, we're also in Lubbock.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes there.
This episode of Hey Amarillo is supported by StoryBridge, an early childhood literacy program. Here's an incredible stat that I hope you'll remember. Kids who grow up in homes with more than 20 books receive an average of 3 years more schooling compared to kids who grow up in homes without books. But in the Amarillo area, only 1 in 5 children has that number of books at home. Only 1 in 5. So that means a lot of kids are entering school without any kind of foundation for learning to read. Well, StoryBridge is trying to change that. Since it launched, this nonprofit has distributed more than 650,000 age-appropriate books for local kids. And through the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program, they provide a book in the mail every month for absolutely free to 8,500 local children under the age of 5. It takes your donations to keep this going. So to give or get involved, visit storybridgeama.org. That's storybridgeama.org. This episode of Hey Amarillo is also supported by Dr. Eddie Sauer, who practices general dentistry at Shemin Dental Group. Eddie has been my dentist since I was in college. He's taken care of my kids' teeth ever since their teeth came along. Dr. Sauer is a national speaker on Invisalign and uses that technology to improve his patients' smiles and positioning. We've used it in our family. We had really good results. It's so much easier than metal braces. You can learn more by following Shemin Dental on Facebook or visit shemindental.com. That's SHEMEN. Okay, I'm back with Marcee Mangiameli. Marcee, this is part of the show I call 8 Straight. 8 Straight is sponsored every week by Panhandle Plains Historical Museum in Canyon. It's the largest history museum in Texas, and one of the most unique parts of its collection is actually on the exterior. Pioneer Hall was built in the 1930s, and this Art Deco structure features more than 100 famous West Texas cattle brands surrounding the entrance. So you can see that and learn more at panhandleplains.org. Okay, we talked about your business, but when you think of Amarillo as a city 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
More family opportunities. So more activities for families to do.
Okay.
I think, it made me so sad to hear that Mesa had shut down because I thought that was so cool, like to have the bar and the grill and the go-karts and all of the things. That's so cool. We need more of stuff like that here. So I hope in that span of time, we've got more family stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, is there something that you have encountered in like another city and you thought, I wish Amarillo had something like this?
So the one thing that was super fun when I lived in Austin, there was like a 3-story laser tag thing. And we would go every Tuesdays. They had this deal every Tuesday. We'd go and we'd just play laser tag for hours on end. It was so much fun. And just having stuff like that, that'd be so cool. So much fun.
Okay, so we've got laser tag, I guess, at Synergy. I think Synergy has, it's not 3 stories, though.
Okay.
So that's the difference. We've got these grain silos, maybe somebody can turn one of those.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay, other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
Coffee shops and drunk drivers.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. It's become baffling how many people on the news have just been horribly impacted by the drunk driving here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what is going on with that. But
does it feel worse in Amarillo than other places
absolutely.
you've lived? Okay.
Absolutely. And I'll go as far to just say bad drivers.
Well,
oh my gosh. Angry drivers.
Yeah. Well, we're angry because of all the construction. We haven't had construction for a long time.
It is angering.
It drives up the road rage, I guess.
It does, for sure.
Let's talk about the coffee shops part. We do have a lot of coffee shops.
Options.
A lot of different options. Yeah. Like, do you have a place that you guys go that's your favorite?
Usually Palace.
Okay.
Yeah, Palace.
I mean, you used to work at Starbucks, right?
Used to work at Starbucks. I'm going to have to say Palace is a lot better, though.
Okay. Well, now people know that's...
Yeah.
Okay. What does this area not have enough of?
We kind of already touched on this. Local music.
Mm-hmm.
I'll highlight that again. I would love to see more local music venues for us, not just on our Friday and Saturday nights.
Okay.
Every day, let's shoot with what Smokey Joe's is doing. That's so cool. I would love to see more places doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, are there types of venues that we don't have that you've encountered in other places? Or do we just need more?
I think just more. We've talked about how any restaurant you go to whenever you're in Austin, it's live music. So it's like which I'm not in the restaurant industry anymore, so my opinions there are kind of small, but I think a lot more restaurants could do well with just having some sort of, even if it's just one singular person playing. I think something like that would be really cool.
Okay. What's your favorite local neighborhood?
I'm biased. I have to say Sunset Terrace.
Okay.
We're Sunset Terrace dwellers. Give a shout out to our little neighborhood. We love it over there, but we are hoping to get into a bigger house, and I'd love to be Puckett. Yeah. Wolfland is beautiful. So
Sunset Terrace has a lot of character, though.
It does.
The houses are all different. There's a lot of different architecture.
Yes, that's why we love it. Yeah. And our neighbors are great, and it's a good little neighborhood to be in.
Okay, what's your favorite local restaurant?
575 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one? Do you go to a certain one? The one on Civic was closed for a while. But.
Yeah, and they're reopening. We haven't been to it yet, but we go to both. I'd say we go to both pretty fair amount. Just depends on what side of town we're on.
You have a certain kind of pizza that you get there?
I get the Quattro calzone. So it's just one big pile of cheese in a calzone, and it is the best thing. Oh my goodness.
All right. That's a good recommendation. What's your favorite local nonprofit?
Advo companies.
All right.
For sure. They help our adults with special needs just thrive in the community. Carla Hughes over there does a great job. If I had half the work ethic that she does, I would be a superstar at this point. She is just an awesome lady, and Advo does a lot of really awesome stuff for us here in the community. Okay.
Do you have a relationship with them apart from knowing about them? Like, have you ever volunteered there or used their services?
Yeah, I volunteered there for probably about 6 months in 2017, 2018.
Okay.
And it was so much fun.
Yeah.
It's such a blessing. Everyone up there is awesome and just does a great job with all of those guys.
Yeah, it's a really fun place to spend time.
It's so much fun. Those people are full of energy and just so much love.
Okay, what's the most underrated aspect of living here?
I think just the sense of community and quote, smallness, unquote, of it. Having just that homey... growing up in a small town, it's the sense of everybody knows everybody, everybody's got each other's back type of thing. And you come to Amarillo, and while it is bigger, there still is that sense of, despite what's going on, we've got each other's backs. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really, really underrated thing for here, I think.
Okay. And last question, when was the last time you visited the Big Texan?
Oh, I was in high school. Really? So maybe like 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while.
So you must have come to Amarillo for something. Was it a high school kind of thing? Like a school thing? I think
we went with my basketball team, I think. Okay. Yeah. So it would be great to take our boys out there. We've got 2 little boys, so I'm sure they would have a blast.
They would love it. I imagine it probably feels about the same now as it did when you were in high school.
I'm sure.
Which is why people like it. Like it doesn't change. It's got all the fun stuff there. Okay.
It does, for sure.
That concludes the 8 straight questions. I like to close by asking my guests to endorse something. So what's one thing you would like listeners to know about or to experience?
I'm going to give a shout out to Tascosa Drive-In.
Okay.
I have never been there until last fall. We took the boys to see Beetlejuice too.
Okay.
And that was just the coolest experience. Jim has done an awesome job turning that place around. I absolutely recommend everyone go there. I don't think they're doing anything right now. I haven't seen anything posted on their Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah, not so much in the winter. I think they're
cold.
They're still doing some work to it. But like big plans.
And they've got like a full menu and all of the things. I've never been to a drive-in like that. And it's still got like the old retro playground and all of that. My oldest loved that.
Yeah, tell me what your family likes about it. Because I think there's a lot of people that have never been, don't know what the experience is like. You know, they just will go to the multiplex and watch it in an air-conditioned place, watch a movie. And they're like, well, why would I go sit in my car, for a movie? Like, tell people, like, what's the draw?
One is cheaper.
Okay.
So we got like 2 movies for half the price of going to Synergy or someplace like that. It was cheaper, more affordable. We got little kids, so letting them be able to run around and do their thing and go to the concession stand, and they've got the full menu of all the things, and it's all affordable. That's what we really liked about it. It wasn't off the wall, like we're going to go spend $100 at the movie, It was really affordable, really a lot of fun, and I think just the atmosphere for the kids is what would really bring me back.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great endorsement.
Perfect.
Marcee Mangiameli, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate it.
It was great to be here. Thank you.
And that concludes the episode. I want to say thanks to Marcee for the interview. You can learn more about Lesson Lounge on Facebook and on Instagram at Lesson Lounge TX. Thanks also to Storybridge, Shemin Dental, and Panhandle Plains Historical Museum for supporting the podcast, and to Angelina Marie for editing every week. And thank you for listening. Hey Amarillo exists on a weekly basis because of listeners like you and the local people who've been supporting it financially through patreon.com/HeyAmarillo. Hey Amarillo's executive producers include Patrick Burns, Jason Burr, Katie Linger, Corey Burns, Josh Wood, Wes Reeves, Cindy Graham, and Barbara and Jim Witten. This has been episode 391. My name is Jason Boyette, and I'll see you next week.